There are a lot of words for this season, my friends. A lot of unmentionable, unprintable, unspeakable words. One of them is most definitely not progress. Good morning to you. Good Monday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Pirates. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into football and or hockey. I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Penguins where you found this. Reds, I don't even remember the score. Hang on, let me see if I can find. Yeah, here it is. Oh, yeah, they finally finished adding it up. 9-5 in Cincinnati's favor yesterday at PNC Park. That's 19 total runs for the Reds, a team that opened this season 3-22 and was having articles written about them nationwide that they were on the cusp of what could become the worst season in Major League Baseball history. Guess what history actually occurred over the weekend on the North Shore? That's right. The worst team anyone had ever seen just passed the Pirates in the standings. Your club now having fallen to last place in the Central. This is not progress. I'm not sure why it's hard for Ben Cherington to acknowledge this and take that from someone who has both an appreciation and I'd like to think an understanding of what it is that he's aiming to achieve. Because I'm going to say it right now, and it's not a popular time to say it, that I've been an admirer of both him and his stated approach toward building a winner in Pittsburgh from the very beginning. Neither of those things has changed. What has changed is the one thing that could least afford to have changed in that time, and that's that there hasn't been execution. Now, there also have been some lousy decisions along the way, and these continue to happen right in front of us, most visibly in the form of these ridiculous waiver claim guys starting again and again and again, while players who would actually benefit from big league at-bats or big league innings are left in Indianapolis. Makes no sense. Made no sense through Yoshi Tsutsugo, Yu Chang, Josh Van Meter, whoever this new guy is that's now 0 for 10 in Pittsburgh and is 5 for 47. He was at third base yesterday. If you know the name, you're a better person than I am. That's something that just independently of all else is a really dumb thing for a really smart guy to be doing. But I'm going to repeat that I like what it is that he hopes to do and how he hopes to do it. What's gone missing and what's now been exposed to everyone is that the execution isn't there. Because it's not just the major league team that's taken a big step backward this year, regressing in hitting, regressing in pitching, regressing a lot in fielding. It's the pool of prospects, the one thing that you could not have go wrong. This franchise has 4 players in Baseball America's top 100. One of them was Termarr Johnson, who was just drafted last month. That's it. That's it. A lot of very good players were traded out of here. And all that's left is that. How and why would Cherington over the weekend describe this in any way, shape, or form as progress? This portion of Daily Shot of Pirates is brought to you by our friends at North Shore Tavern. That's directly across Federal Street from PNC Park. It's home of Steak on a Stone, an eating experience, underscoring the word experience. The steak is brought to you partially cooked on an 800-degree stone, and you do the rest. It's a ton of fun, it's a great meal, and it's a baseball atmosphere like no other in Pittsburgh. North Shore Tavern, right across Federal Street from PNC Park. Before I go on, here's a little bit of Cherington's answer to reporters at PNC Park over the weekend on the subject of progress.
I think Jack's just had a really, really positive year overall. And positive year doesn't mean perfect year. There's going to be ups and downs and good days and challenging days, and he's had all those. But overall, it's been a really positive year for him, starting in AA, coming up, doing a lot of good things. He went back down to work on some specific things that he is now, and when you're working on something, not every day is going to be perfect, but what we know about, we don't worry about Jack because we know he's going to pour everything he has into it, and he's going to figure it out. He is doing that now, and he's an important part of what we're building.
Now, I got to tell you, he went on a lot longer than that. That's just one clip, as I'd promised. He spent nearly a half hour on an unscheduled, irregular visit with reporters and attempted to make his case on that front, getting into methodologies and people being on the same page. And what it all comes down to is processes. He's a processes guy. And so far, through nearly 3 full years of his tenure, if he's swayed in any direction by the results, and I'm going to repeat that I'm not just talking about wins and losses in Pittsburgh. This show tries to go a little bit deeper than that, okay? He hasn't shown it, and I'm going to keep saying this. That's my number one concern. This is a GM who's finished in last place or next to last in each of the past 8 years for the teams that he's working for. There can come a comfort level from that, and I don't say that in a flattering way. There can come a complacency. Maybe that's just what he's become. I don't know that because I don't see that competitive. I don't see that edge. I don't see, whether it's in visual or verbal form, I don't see it on the field where it counts. If his end game, if his wish is to create the perfect baseball atmosphere in which all processes are immaculate and everyone communicates properly and everyone agrees and there's full accountability within that to maintain all of those processes, I gotta tell you, I'm not very interested in it. And I can't imagine that a whole lot of people in the city are. So for Cherington to even have this time that he spent with these reporters and to begin really for the first time to address some of his own perceptions about the processes or the progress or where he sees the team going into 2023, my goodness, at least that in and of itself might have represented some progress. When we come back, J1Q. Today's J1Q comes from Randy Duncan, who asks, why don't we see more signings for the Pirates directly connected to the Dominican Baseball Academy? Doesn't the organization run it exclusively? Why aren't more prospects tied to their efforts? I'm going to answer this a couple different ways, Randy. And the first is that the Pirates have lacked in elite talent out of Latin America for a while now. Marte, who was signed by the former Latin American scouting director Rene Gallo under Dave Littlefield, that was probably the last elite guy. And it depends on your definition of elite. Don't edit me on that one. Marte's a really, really good major league player. That was way back in 2007. Beyond that, you've had the Gregory Polanco types, a handful of pitchers, a lot of guys who ended up getting traded away, most of those by Neil Huntington, and then being okay players elsewhere. Your point stands on that. The Pirates have not done well enough in Latin America. If you want to blame Gallo for that, go right ahead. I tend to know a little bit better since I know the man very, very well. Some of it was money related, and not the way you'd think. It was more Huntington saying no regarding money, or saying no because it wasn't his scouts who'd get the credit for it over Gallo, that kind of garbage. But it hasn't happened anywhere near what you'd want it to. I will point out on the current roster that Rodolfo Castro and Yerry De Los Santos are both Gallo guys. And in the case of, well, I guess you could say in the case of both of them, I mean, there's some legit promise there. But again, not something in the elite stratosphere. As for the academy itself, that's a common misperception. As someone who visited that academy in the Dominican, I can tell you firsthand that it's beautiful, it's wonderful, it's efficient, it's still one of the best in the country. It's nestled on this side road away from the city of Santo Domingo, between the academies for the Red Sox and the Royals. And I'm telling you, the Pirates Academy smokes all of them. And I visited both of those too, as well, for comparison purposes. Now, why is it there and why is it not producing talent? Remember that it's not like you're recruiting for college football or something, or you're bringing them in to an academy the way you would say like the IMG Baseball Academy in Bradenton or that sort of thing. You are still going through the process of signing international free agents the same way every other team is. All the academy serves to do is to give your team a place to train those players that you've signed without leaving the island, which you don't want them to do too early for a whole bunch of cultural and family reasons. Remember, these international free agents in Latin America get signed at age 16. That's when it starts out. And as eager as they might be to get off to the island, and by that, I'm referring to the terminology that they use themselves down there, meaning to get to wherever your spring or rookie level facilities are. In the Pirates' case, that's obviously Bradenton. You want them staying close to home. You want them to do whatever learning it is that they have to do in terms of the language and so forth down there, because as Francisco Liriano once powerfully shared with me when he was with the Pirates, the shock to the system of a young Latin American player coming up into Florida can be overwhelming and debilitating, and he had a tough time overcoming it himself in the Minnesota system. So if you want to blame the Pirates for not being good enough down there, that is a fair, valid criticism with ample support behind it. But the academy itself doesn't do that. The academy doesn't just find players off the street and say, we'll make you good, and then we send you on up to the Pittsburgh system. That's not how it works. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everyone listening to Daily Shot of Pirates. We will do another one of these tomorrow.